Welcome to Three Questions, where critical thinking is king, and my opinions and research are only here to support your learning and hopefully deeper understanding. Hey, my name is Meghann, and I am your host of Three Questions, and I am really excited for today's episode, where I'm not going to ask you three questions, but I'm going to ask two very important people three questions. Now, if you are a Pilates teacher and you don't know who these two women are, well, I'm going to be so bold to say you aren't a Pilates teacher. So I would like to welcome the amazing Elizabeth Larkham and Madeline Black, easy for me to say, to Three Questions. So first of all, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Meghann.
And before we kind of dig in, I was thinking how I introduce both you guys to the audience, and reading off your bio doesn't do it justice. Madeline, I think, what did you say? Approximately 40 years experience at a minimum. And Elizabeth, What did you just say your anniversary of teaching movement and Pilates was?
It's 40 years teaching Pilates this year.
So over 80 years experience plus my 23. That's a lot of experience right here. But man, they make my experience look like shit. But what I really want to highlight is not that they've just been teaching Pilates. They have pioneered different techniques, taught all over the world, and in my opinion, have been critical thinkers and a bit of disruptors in the industry in a positive way. So it was an absolute honor. Now, you guys listening to this on Spotify or Apple don't see what I'm holding up. But if you're watching me on YouTube, I am holding up this giant book, Pilates Applications for Health Conditions, Volume 1 and 2. Madeline Black and Elizabeth came up with this idea, and it was an honor to be asked to participate in a chapter. So I'd like to talk about the book today, if that's okay. Are you guys up for talking about the book?
Completely. Always.
And don't worry if you guys talk over each other. We'll figure it out. So in thinking about this episode, something that bothers me as a 43-year-old, I don't know, I guess as we're looking towards more innovation and critical thinking and evidence-based theory, right? We hear a lot of evidence-based practices. I think it's great. But I believe we are leaving some foundational and some groundbreaking voices behind. I'm not saying that's your voices, but I do think as new things come out, people are very active on social media. How do we deal with this situation? I mean, is this a form of ageism? And I'm going to ask you guys, what's the best way to keep legacy alive in a modern way?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And it's hard to say when there's so much din going on, with the social media world. I mean, that's our world now. And all the marketing, it's all about marketing. So marketing messages should not be your education. And it really needs people to maybe get curious about something they see, but then actually go ahead and look into the research and then dive in, to see if there's any foundation to what the claim is being said on these messages. So it's very difficult to kind of sort through. And in my experience in looking at this, I noticed that a lot of what you're seeing, like TikTok and Instagram especially, you're seeing these younger people, younger than Elizabeth and I are, who have not the years in the whole field, who really have no understanding of the evolution of Pilates, especially, but also movement education, movement, motor control, movement science. And that's what Elizabeth and I have, through our careers, have always been curious and researching this. And then I've seen comments about people being aged out of teaching certain classes and things like that. And I feel that, there's a legacy. We have Joseph Pilates, there's the family tree, and all of that. But the field has expanded in a good way, right? So that the time, if you look at the years, some people don't even know what were the years that Joseph Pilates was teaching, and his, the world was completely different then
Just a
in
little
terms.
different, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so, the person's health and what their activities are, and even conditions. This is the thing about the conditions that have come up. These conditions, a lot of these in the book, were not part of the world back then. Long COVID, I mean, it's remarkable to me. And then, even the diagnosis, which you could speak to, Meg, too, is, MS. There were people who had MS and they didn't know what it was. So, so there's that legacy, but also understanding we can't be stuck, in 1950, right? And unfortunately, I feel the tide is kind of going back, or there's amnesia, or no one's been taught that there is a great body of work and great teachers like in this book. And, here we are, and we are older, but we're still functioning and we have the knowledge base and have brought this all forward. And I just feel like that's missing in the
Well,
social media.
I feel like, and this is what I say, sometimes we don't get the answer we want because the question wasn't good. And I think if I could make my question even a little bit more, I want to talk about your work, Elizabeth's work. Whereas, I'll give an example. I see a guy talking as if he invented fascial-based movement connecting the full body. I'm pretty sure he didn't invent that, but I know someone sitting here pioneered that. Madeline, you did a lot with biomechanics and different somatics and biomechanics. So if I'd be so bold, I think the conversation goes, it becomes an us versus them. And I know when I was right out of college, I had a lot of education, but no experience. But how do we bridge the gap between the older knowledge that was great, that might not have had the research to support it because of technology, and newer stuff without alienating these new people that want to innovate? How do we encourage people to look back on the past? Not that it doesn't mean they're not valuable, but that it will help them get to a better answer. Is that a better question?
Yeah, that's much clearer. And I would say, if you don't want to come to our presence and be with us in a teaching setting, that would be come take classes with us, and or read our books. So you have the Pilates Applications for Health Conditions, where there's a whole history of assessment, how it evolved in our field. There's so many teachers that don't even use assessment.
It's true.
Their assessment is a shape. It's not about movement, so that's my big thing. And then the evolution of bringing in more biological fascial studies and movement, is Elizabeth's book, Fascia in Motion. So there's my book centered, her book,
So
and then,
I will put these in the court. There's going to be a lot of not course notes, podcast notes, guys. So Madeline's book is centered and there's 2 volumes, correct?
yes, it's like 2 editions.
2 editions. And Elizabeth, your Fascia in Motion, correct?
Yes.
So I will put those links down there in addition to the links to get this Pilates application for health conditions. I mean, I know for a fact the chapter on Parkinson's is really good. The author is amazing, and she's really modest, though. Really modest.
So there's like a history. I mean, you'll see there's not only the history of the teachers who started evolving Pilates back in the 60s, Eve Gentry and, Kathy Grant. I mean, these women really started evolving to help people move better, not just do the exercise. So, and there's a history of how Pilates came into the physical therapy world. It's a chapter Elizabeth wrote. So there's a lot of juice in that volume.
So what I'm hearing is, if you're newer to this industry or even under 20 years, maybe we should do some research on the past and educate ourselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. What do you think, Elizabeth?
I think that a very reasonable way to approach this past, present, and looking towards the future is both with utmost respect and a great deal of humility. Because given the complexity of each individual and the complexity of evolution, human evolution, It's possible to get quite fascinated with the latest quote discovery, or the latest research paper, and to think that oh well, that indicates that the past was so irrelevant. And we find that in the movement field in particular, looking interdisciplinarily, that people who were practicing movement, we'll say, for example, Joseph H. Pilates, practicing movement without the benefit of the fascia research or the benefit of biomechanics or neurological research, that they were honing in on their human physiology and intuition, and they knew some things that we can be informed by. So I'm constantly on a time shuttle back to the past and onto the present, in hopes of making a contribution to the future. I think when Madeline and I took our 7-year arc, our 7-year journey to co-edit these 2 volumes, Pilates Applications for Health Conditions, we were in constant communication about how does a particular movement sequence in the Pilates studio that appears to be all this year, how is that influenced by the vocabulary of Joseph Pilates from the 20s to the 60s? And how are what we perceive to be innovations in the studio movement practice today, how might that be shaped by the people who study with Joseph Pilates, whom we also quote in the book? So we're constantly on this shuttle.
I love that. I love that. And I find the more I learn, the closer I get back to appreciating the classical Pilates method. That doesn't mean it's always appropriate, but I can find the appropriateness in it. And I love using research to have a better way to describe what our intuition and what we're doing. I'm teaching a workshop on scoliosis this weekend, and I said, we're not replacing what works, because people will be like, well, I was taught this. I am not saying that's wrong. I am just showing you a different way to look at it to help you better understand what the hell we're trying to do. That's why I loved in this process. It was a real honor to I remember random things. This is going to lead me to question 2. I'm going to segue here. Just that meeting when we were talking about language. Now, something that I say to my students all the time, and they get a little annoyed when they say something to me, I go, word salad. It's just word salad. The crouton. Now you're putting dressing on it. What do you actually mean? You're saying stability, but you're moving. And not that they're not smart. They're all brilliant. But I want them to get what they mean. And I loved that was a conversation we had. You're like, Meg, what do you mean by this? What are we trying to get at? And I was like, well, these are the words I'm using. And what I want everybody to hear before I ask the question is, in this book, they took the time to create a glossary to try to improve language and how we use it. So do the 3 of us a favor and buy it and read it, and stop saying stability when you're moving something. I'm just kidding, but I'm not. So to ask a question, because that's why we're here, is language. I mean, it's so important. How can we as movement teachers improve our language to deepen our understanding of what we actually mean? I think I want to know what you guys think.
We can start by keeping an editor on our shoulder, and she's always saying, really? Do you mean that? Did you actually say what you meant? It's true.
I love that. That's so simple, Elizabeth.
Thank you. It's true. Pilates Applications for Health Conditions. It is written in the English language. There is a Korean edition, which is in progress now, and there's a Mandarin Chinese edition that is in progress now also. But given that it's in the English language, Madeline and I had a huge heavy lifting task to acknowledge what types of vocabulary are appropriate for each field within the English language. There's the vocabulary of anatomy, which could come from Latin, have its base in Latin. There's the vocabulary of biomechanics, the vocabulary of motor learning. There's the vocabulary of Joseph Pilates. He brought terms such as powerhouse. Now, cut him some slack. Joseph Pilates was of German origin. English was not his first language, and yet he was teaching in New York in English. He brought words to describe his movement, such as powerhouse, such as swan, such as elephant, such as mermaid. And that vocabulary would get our book nowhere if we want to have an interdisciplinary influence to the field of movement in health. We need to be able to communicate with clinical professionals, with fitness professionals who may not have the Joseph H. Pilates background. So throughout the writing of the book, the editing of each of the chapters by 26 contributors, we were constantly asking ourselves, is this contributor clarifying a movement sequence with words such that a Pilates professional could follow it, as could a clinical professional from another field?
Yeah, I think that's super important. And I know when it was happening, it was over COVID, and we had spoke about this. It wasn't my primary concern over COVID when all our businesses imploded and stuff like that. So the 7 years it took for you guys to get that together was such a big undertaking, not because you did it slowly, but because you did it exceptionally well, despite all those considerations. I remember coming home from Dubai after being in Japan and then having to be in Miami and go to California. And I was tired and I was like, I need a break. And COVID happened. So I apologized to the world for me complaining about traveling. But at that time, all of us teachers did not know what was going on, right? So you guys creating this resource when we all became very separated, but together via social media, I just want every teacher to buy this as a resource. So this way you can communicate better with neurologists, PTs, all the other people, okay? And because of COVID and that, we don't do as much in-person stuff, right, guys? I mean, I don't do as much as I used to. It's all virtual. So I do think this is a huge resource for language for all of us. And even on the funnier side, when you said it's in English, I laughed. That's not what you meant, but I laughed because it's amazing how in English, we all use a different English. There's a New York English, there's a Midwest English. And to me, again, the case studies are great. I'm not diminishing that, but buy this even just for that glossary and look at all the words and maybe think about what you mean. So Madeline, what does language mean to you?
Well, we're talking about communication, right? But to me, also as a teacher, when I have clarity in my language, I can see the person I'm working with more clearly. So when I have that understanding that if I use the word hip, am I talking about the pelvis? Am I talking about the hip joint? And hip, like Eve Gentry's knee folds.
Mm-hmm.
That's her name for actually a proximal seating of the head of the femur into the socket during hip flexion. So it's how the body responds to that single leg hip flexion,
But I love how you're thinking about people's intention. That to me is so important in language because everybody's so quick to be like, that's not what a knee fold did. Instead of thinking about what was her intention. Just right there, guys, I hope you learned that just because we're cueing something, it might create a sensory environment ideal for that client. But ask intentions first before you go to freak out. Asking that. I feel like I just learned something.
Yeah, what I'm saying as a movement teacher, it helps me be clear in what I'm watching, the movement of the body. Now, would I say that to the client? No, I would use more imagery or sensory, like soften the back of your hip as you float your foot up off the table. I mean, that could be a cue for the client, but I know in my mind the mechanics of it and what I should be seeing, and then looking at the tensions and the pulling throughout the whole body and see how their strategy on lifting their foot up off the floor, what their body does as it responds to it. But because I have the clarity, when I teach a workshop, I have people ask a question, right? The teacher, I state something about the pelvis and da da da, da, right? And someone has a question, and then they ask me this question. I don't understand their question because they're not explaining it to me in, of course, my language
Yeah.
being actual anatomical, biomechanical, language.
Asking a
So
question is not easy. And
no,
that's
so
why
then
it's
I have
hard to
to, I
understand.
had, yeah, I have to teach the teachers. I did this during COVID. I had to teach everyone, even when they wrote in questions, what do you mean? Rewrite that question, and try to say it in this way,
I think it's a lot of teachers are fearful of being judged for saying the wrong thing or being sounding uneducated. And what I just say is just say what you mean. We'll figure it out.
Right.
And my dad always said, "Oh, there's not a stupid question, but people feel like it's a stupid question because they don't actually know what what are they trying to get at."
Right.
So I love the idea of language. If I can summarize, and please correct me if I heard it wrong, language helps you understand what you're doing better, helps us
Yes.
communicate to the actual client, and helps us communicate with each other,
Yes.
right? So having these tools and being okay with making mistakes and asking questions, right? That to me leads to great dialogue. I love when teachers ask a question and my face, I'm always like, really? That's your question? But it always ends up in an interesting dialogue because don't you ever notice where teachers will ask a question? You're like, out of all the things I said, this is what you're focused on?
Right.
It's so funny. And that's why I'm obsessed with learning because it's so weird, isn't it? So before I ask question 3 is give me a little pitch for the book. I know, and if you follow me on social media or on this podcast, I don't promote any products. Why? Because I want you guys to know what I promote is what I really do. The reason why I think this book is important is for all the reasons we just talked about. But I'm kind of going to add in a 4th question that we didn't even talk about. But what was your why for this book? Can each of you give me your why for this book?
Elizabeth, you go.
Tag, you're it.
You're it.
Yes. Yes. I feel a great responsibility to the field, and I have a sisterhood with Madeline in this commitment to furthering the field of movement education, specifically within Pilates. And I bemoan the fact that Pilates can easily be diluted or not respected for its tremendous potential to facilitate movement practices that are physically beneficial, emotionally beneficial, and can bring cognitive clarity. So
Amazing.
I see this book as it was a labor of, sure, one could say a labor of love, a labor of study, a labor of commitment to the field with a sisterhood of collegiality, such that we can, in these 2 volumes, we can give a foundation for Pilates that contributes to health care and to health well-being and to wellness that is very relevant in this age of AI.
So you made this book for us.
Aren't we generous?
Yeah, thank you. What about how do you follow that one, Madeline?
I know.
I know you can do it. I have faith. You guys are
No,
awesome.
it's, Elizabeth and I have over all these years, we were obviously the early adapters actually in the field of Pilates, early adapters of anatomy and dissection and biomechanics. I mean, there are other people also parallel with us, but
You push the envelope.
we were always searching for that. And in our busy lives, even though we both were in the Bay Area at the time, we kind of just orbited around each other, So when the publisher came to both of us and said, "Hey, we're interested in a Pilates book with research," both she and I were like, "Ooh, that's going to be a pretty small book," But we decided to collaborate, and then we came up with this idea, not what the publisher wanted. And being the years that we've had in this field, we pretty much know everyone. And I can even tell when I'm teaching a group class, like at a conference, I can tell who studied with whom by the way they're doing the movement. Oh, you're a person, you're a this person, you could just tell. So it's interesting in the history that we have, so that we could do that. And it was such an honor to be able to choose teachers like yourself, Meghann, whose work we have a high respect for. And we really wanted to bring that forward, out into our field, because we have the ability of knowing lots of people, and then pulling in the expertise, based on what. And the 7 years working with Elizabeth, we bonded. Our orbits now are more like together like this. It's great. I mean, this was one of the huge benefits, not the money. There's no money involved here in terms of publishing, but it's that connection, launching these other teachers, who are younger. Most
that's
of
what
them
we-
are younger than we are, but
Yeah.
that's, and yeah, it's a gift really. And it's a legacy in some ways for us,
Yeah.
in terms of what we're leaving the world. We are on that spectrum of the winter part of our ages, so.
I think you got
Yeah.
more to do, though, both of you. So, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Hopefully
But,
God will think that.
Yes. I also just want to highlight two things that I heard that I just want to bring to the audience's attention is both Madeline and Elizabeth could have chose competition, isolation, and not collaboration. And I don't know if you guys all know this about Mariska and I. When we first started, we were both doing Pilates for MS. I had saw her book because I was looking for resources, and that's how we met. Of, are we going to be competition? And we said, let's do this together. So I just love another example of choosing collaboration over competition. And dare I say, I really do think we need more of that in the Pilates field, in particular. Madeline's success doesn't dull my light. My success does not dull these two lights. And I know it's corny and people say that. My big thing is people say that shit all the time, but they don't follow through. And these two ladies are here today because they believe in collaboration. I reached out to them about this project and how we can shine a light on all the teachers. And I emailed Madeline, well, it was like a Saturday at 8 a.m. And she emailed me back within 2 to 3 hours. And Madeline, so, I said to my husband, I was like, I really want to do this. I think it's important, but there is a chance it will be taken the wrong way and it will burn a bridge. And my husband goes, are you willing to do that risk? I go, I think it's important. So I am grateful that you didn't hesitate. This wasn't about you and to bring the light to all these teachers. So I am going to be spotlighting some of the teachers who are in the book on my podcast episode and asking them questions about their work, but also to help with critical thinking. So I think if we can start that dialogue here and carry it over, again, everybody listening, maybe lift somebody else up today, because I think we need more of that.
Absolutely.
Which, back to the task at hand, we got to get to question 3, although I added in a 2B. Question 3, enough of this lighthearted chit chat. As one of my favorite people, do you know who Larry David is?
Yes, I love him.
I don't want to assume, right? Larry David, if you don't know, is one of the, he did the Seinfeld show with Jerry Seinfeld, but he has a show, Curb Your Enthusiasm. And one of my favorite things Larry David said was, he was at a dinner party and he asked something maybe slightly inappropriate. Don't worry, I won't do that to you. But he said, I'm just trying to elevate small talk to medium. So in the effort to elevate small talk to medium, let's get out of the Pilates world. I want to know, what is inspiring you two right now? What are you into? What are you doing? Tell us something to maybe get us more curious about you guys. I'll start with Madeline.
Okay. Well, there's so many things, it's at this point, people are like, aren't you retiring? Are you retiring? This is the thing that drives me crazy.
Ew,
It's
why do
like,
you have to
well,
retire?
that's what people say, because your age, you're a certain age. Are you? And I said, first of all, never in my life have I worked for a company who paid me anything. I mean, my whole career, I have never worked for corporations. No one's ever paid my health insurance. No one's giving me an IRA, zero. And this is what the profession, I mean, this is what we do. Right. So that said, it's like my life is like, no, I'm not going to retire, but I'm working differently. I'm doing things very differently. And my main focus, I mean, it's maybe kind of boring, but it's my own health. As you get
Why
older,
is that boring?
well, I don't know, because it's not like I'm painting or playing more music or, singing. You don't want to hear me sing, but but yeah. So I'm doing different movement because I have to, because my body is changing. So I'm exploring that, and also doing different activities. Like I love stand-up paddleboard, so when I'm around the water. I love the water. I swim a lot now. I wasn't doing that before. So but it's all movement based. I can't help
But
it.
that's what you love. I
I
am
do.
actually
Yeah.
so excited because I will be stand-up paddleboarding all next week in Lake George. I
Nice.
love stand-up paddleboarding. I don't like kayaking. The
Yeah.
seating, it's not for me.
Yeah.
I-
Sitting in flexion and then rotating.
No, there's something about stand-up paddleboarding that
Yeah.
is so relaxing.
Yeah.
How long can you go out there for? Because my attention span is not very long for anything.
I've done 45 minutes or so. I'm on the ocean though. It's a
Oh,
completely
that's
different thing. It's really tough. I mean, it's
well,
not
that's
a
higher risk. Death is involved there.
well, it's not big waves. I go out when it's as flat as possible.
Okay, you got me
But
nervous there, Matt.
and I've got whales coming up to me at the same time. Seriously, I had to go down on my knees because a whale came really close to my board.
What
So
about
that-
sharks, Madeline?
Well, the sharks don't come in
Okay.
to where we are. They're
This
out
is
there.
why I
but-
prefer pools. I'm just saying.
well, I was always trying to learn it on the ocean, and then I was falling over, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm a movement expert. I can't even stand up on this thing. And then I went with a friend to a lake, and I was like, what? Oh, and
It's
her board
different.
is blow up, by the way.
Very different.
My board is smaller. It's fiber. I mean, it's like I picked the hardest board, of course, and I'm on the ocean. So anyway, it's a huge challenge, and that freaks my mind out. I mean, I have to. It's like a meditation, because I have to. The minute I have a thought, the minute I have a fear, I lose my balance. I don't fall in the water, but I mean, you start
Yeah.
to lose your balance. But I have to keep my mind completely still.
Okay,
So
what do you think you're focused? So I literally just filmed an episode about how to stay focused.
Okay.
Is when you see, do you get more distracted when you see something, hear something, or feel something when you're paddleboarding?
feel? For me, I'm a feeler. Yeah, sensate. Yeah, so I
interesting.
start to hum. Try it.
Yeah.
I'm humming while I'm on the board, and it completely drops me down, and I can keep my balance. So,
Love
but it's amazing. As soon as it could be just a thought, like, oh, I'm having lunch today, blah, 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 whatever, and then all of a sudden I'm like on the board going like this.
All right.
So
Yeah, it
anyway.
reminds me, my husband, who was a high level athlete. I mean, he was an offensive lineman, so they just look like big white dudes or
Right.
big black dudes, whatever. But he's so light on his feet. When we went stand up paddleboarding, it's the one thing I'm better at him than him. And it was so funny because I think he is so kinesthetic and a natural mover. There was a lot of feeling distractions. I don't get distracted by feel. I get distracted by noise. So when I'm out there, my husband's like, why are you so good at this? And I was like, I don't know, but it was like, that's so interesting that you said the same. I would have guessed, knowing your movement background, I would have assumed, like I assume with Brian, you would be naturally good at it. But it's interesting understanding your distractions.
Yeah, no, it was not a natural. I don't do well with water under or skiing, like things that move under my feet. I was a dancer, so I was on the
Oh,
stage,
you
on the
moved.
floor. Yeah, eye-hand coordination, the worst. Because I dance professionally, so we weren't throwing balls ever. and I didn't skate and I didn't ski. I was dancing all the time. So my
Okay, so don't
proprioception,
throw balls at Madeline's
no,
face when she's on an uneven surface.
there you go. That'd be good training though, wouldn't it?
I know, right? Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. What about you, Elizabeth? What are you up to these days?
Oh, I'm so sorry to bring it down out of the ocean filled with whales to this. I actually I have a contract for a new book with our publisher, and for the next year, I'll be preparing this book, which is to bring 10 years of recent fascia research and apply it to movement, because
Wow.
it's time to upgrade fascia in motion, and rather going into a second edition, because Madeline has a second edition of Centered. My fascia in motion over my shoulder here, it's going to stay as it is. But the world has changed considerably since it was published in 2017. And now I have the good fortune to bring the 10 years of fascia research that is very significant to movement and apply it there. Now, in order to do that, like Madeline, I have to focus on my health, which is, I consider myself such a full-time project. So there's lots of movement going on, lots of trying to get state-of-the-art nutrition, always trying to get sleep right, the usual things that one hears about in the wellness space. But that's what I'm up to, and
What do you
of course
think?
working
Oh,
to
go ahead.
working to support the whole project, because
Oh, yeah.
the book publishing in our field is not really economically viable, so I have to teach to support the project. Excuse me.
Someone actually asked me, how come you haven't started your next research stud, like clinical research? And I was like, money.
Yeah.
Money. I have to make it. There's not much out there, especially with some cuts and stuff like that. So I'm doing my best. And they didn't mean it the way they said it, but I took it the way they said it. Because, anyway. So back to that. What do you think is the biggest, I don't want to say driver to health. What do you think is the one thing that can make the wheels come off the bus? For me, it's hydration, which makes me laugh because I don't ever remember drinking water as a child or in my 20s. And I find if I don't drink 3 of these giant water bottles, shit doesn't function. So I wonder if there's anything for you guys that feel like you're deal breakers with health.
I'd say movement.
Yeah, movement.
Yeah, because yes, hydration. I actually, as you get older, your sense of
Are you saying I'm getting
thirst.
old, Madeline? Is that what I'm hearing?
well, your sense as you get older, your sense of thirst diminishes, so you don't realize that you're thirsty. So you actually,
I never had. I never
that's a
had
study.
a sense of
I can
thirst.
send you the study.
No, but it's interesting. My
Oh.
mother used to have to force me to drink things. I am never thirsty, never was as a kid. I also have celiac and other digestive issues, but it's something that used to make my mother crazy because, or, probably to make her crazy. We've talked about it like once, but like I could go through the whole day without drinking water. So send me that study. I want to read it.
Okay, I'll have to search for it. But yeah, so
I can
that's
figure it.
yeah. But so that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I find that I have to consciously do that. But if I don't move, like I haven't, I've been away for a couple of days, like 2-3 days without like just kind of doing normal like stretch on the counter and wiggle around in your chair and all that. I need my workout, and I start to feel bad energy. My thoughts get really negative, and I can't move well. So then I get
Were you
really
always
grumpy.
that way?
I don't know if I was, but I've had a lot of injuries too from the dancing, so I have to keep myself in check, So yeah, I'd say if I don't move, that is my downfall.
Awesome. Not awesome that it happens, but
No, I know. Yeah.
what about you, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Sleep? Okay, just because you said it, I was thinking sleep.
Well, actually, I would rather move than sleep, which is maybe can be a problem. But continually fine tuning what my organism needs, what I need during the aging process. which I don't feel old, but the necessity of fine tuning is even a greater responsibility now. And that includes movements, certainly, fine tuning the movements so my proprioceptive sense is fed, and therefore I can have it may be delusional, but I can have the sense of being cohesive. And then when I have the sense, the foundation of being cohesive, which comes to me through movement, through the proprioceptive sensory elements, then I feel I can express better, use language better, teach with more compassion, be more present with my family. And in order to do that, I have to have creatine for the muscles and creatine for the brain.
I love that. I love that. And I feel the same about movement. I'm a little different because I was an athlete, but an average athlete at best. I wasn't an exceptional athlete. Movement doesn't come naturally to me. So for me, smaller movement balance, I call them DMAs, daily movement activators, to activate proprioceptors, just like what you said. If I don't do that, I am the worst version of myself, I think. It's crazy. But I think in my 20s, I think I was treating my body like it was like yours, both of you who are naturally good movers. So over exercising, trying to find those proprioceptive shifts, but that's not what my body needed. So I hope if you guys listen to this, if you are movers like Elizabeth and Madeline, or a non-mover who needs to move, finding the ways to do it for you. And think about what these things are that are your deal breakers. And I love that you were like, oh, what I'm doing is so boring. I mean, I feel like when people are like, oh, what do you do all day? I'm like, I think about movement. I study movement. I move. I talk about it. But that's what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm pretty boring too.
Okay.
I do love to spend time with my family. That's my favorite because anytime my head even gets a little big, they bring you right back down in a very loving way. So thank you guys so much for being here, for your contributions to not only the Pilates community, to the movement community, to supporting other women. Sure, you support other men too, but supporting women specifically, because unfortunately in this industry, I'll say it, sometimes the men rise higher and faster when they have less experience, less knowledge, and got it from some of the women sitting in this room. So I'm just going to be so bold to say that. So I will, on behalf of all of the movement community, thank you. Thank you for continuing to learn, to open the conversation to other teachers, and to be, good role models on how to age and how to include people in the process of learning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meghann.
And thank you guys for listening to this episode. I am going to put a ton in the show notes. If you have any questions, I will make sure Madeline and Elizabeth's emails are there so you can reach out to them and ask them questions directly. Please check out the book. Please check out their work. Please check out their work if you're going to teach a course. I know I'm excited to read the new book. I want to be more educated on your work as well. In the Pilates community, I always felt a little isolated because I wasn't from the dance background. So I just look forward to getting to know you guys more and your work even more. So I will see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.